All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about the single most critical skill in all of trading. And here's a hint, it has nothing to do with finding the perfect entry or predicting where the market's going next. Nope, it's about survival. It's all about risk management. Because look, your strategy, that's what gets you in the door. But how you manage your risk, that's what keeps you in the game.
I love this quote because it's just so true. We all get hooked on the charts, right? The patterns, the indicators, that feeling when you nail a setup, that's the fun part. That's what makes you fall in love with trading. But the real work, the thing that separates the people who last from the people who blow up their accounts, is the boring, disciplined, but absolutely essential job of managing your losses.
So, where do we even begin with all this? Well, we start at the beginning, with the most common and honestly the most straightforward strategy out there. I call it the regular approach, and there's a really good reason it's the foundation for most traders. The real beauty of this method is just how simple it is. The reason it works so well for so many people is that there are very few moving parts to mess up. You see, the main goal here isn't to hit massive home runs every single time. It's to avoid striking out. It's all about keeping your capital safe and making sure your equity curve is a nice, smooth upward slope, not a terrifying roller coaster. Okay, so here are the rules. It's super simple. You start out risking a steady 1% of your account on a trade. If you win, great. Awesome. You just stick with that 1% for the next trade. But, and this is the most important part, if you take a loss, you immediately chop your risk in half, down to 0.5%. And you stay there at that smaller size until you've made back everything you lost and your account is back at a new high. It's a simple idea, right? When you're running cold, you bet small. Let's just look at an example to see how powerful this is. You start with 100 grand. You risk 1%, that's $1,000, and bam, you take a loss. See that first row? Now you're down to 99,000. You're in a drawdown. So what do? You don't get reckless and try to win it all back. Nope. Look at row 2. You cut your risk in half. Your next trade wins. And because you're using a decent risk to reward, you not only cover that first loss, you actually hit a new equity high. It's only then that you go back to risking your full 1%. This little rule's what stops a bad day from turning into a total disaster. Okay, so that's the standard playbook. But what if you're not trading your own money? What if you're trying to get funded by a prop firm? Well, that's a whole different ballgame. You're not just playing against the market anymore. Now you have to play by the firm's rules. And here's a tough pill to swallow. You have to understand that the business model for a lot of these prop firms actually depends on you failing the challenge. They make their money from the fees you pay to try again. So they create these super strict rules, like a maximum daily loss or a total drawdown limit, that make a normal risk strategy, well, extremely dangerous. They're basically building a maze that's designed to be hard to get through. Which, leads us to a really important question. If risking 1% is so smart and so safe for your personal account, why is it basically a death sentence when you're trading for a prop firm? The answer is just cold, hard math. 3. That's the number. That's all it takes. Think about it. On a typical $100,000 prop firm challenge, they might give you a max drawdown of just 3 grand. So if you're risking 1% of the account, that's $1,000 a trade. 1 loss, 2 losses, 3 losses in a row, which, let's be honest, happens to everyone, and you're out. You've broken the rules. Game over. You just can't use the same logic here. So to succeed, you have to think about prop firm trading in 2 totally different phases. First, there's the challenge phase. Here, your only goal is speed. Get through it. You're not earning any real money, so you can be aggressive. A good rule of thumb is to risk a fixed 20% of your total allowed drawdown, not your account size, on every single trade. But the second you pass and get funded, everything changes. The goal flips from speed to survival. Now you switch to a much more conservative model, maybe risking 10% of your drawdown. And just like our regular model, if you lose, you cut that in half until you recover. Aggressive to pass, conservative to profit. Okay, so we've covered the standard everyday approach. We've covered the special ops approach for prop firms. Now, let's talk about the high-stakes, high-octane version. This is the strategy you use when you want to grow an account and grow it fast. Now, I have to put a giant warning label on this one. This is not for beginners. This is an advanced technique. It's for traders who have a ton of experience, who have their own capital, and maybe most importantly, who have a rock-solid mindset, because you have to be okay with risking huge chunks of profit that you literally just made, and trust me, that is a very, very hard thing to do psychologically. So how does this whole thing work? Well, it actually starts the same way as the regular model. You risk 1%. But here's where the magic kicks in. When you get a winning trade, you take half of that profit, and you roll it right into the next trade. If that one wins too,
You take 25% of those even bigger profits and risk it on a third trade. What you're doing is aggressively compounding using the market's own money. And then, after any loss along the way or after that third trade no matter what, you hit the reset button. You go right back to your small base risk of 1%.
So before you even consider trying this, you need to be really honest with yourself and look at this checklist. You have to have a strategy that you know inside and out. You need the mental game to see those big profits not as your money, but as fuel for the next trade. You absolutely need your own capital to do this with. And yeah, you need a thick skin to watch your account balance swing wildly without freaking out. This is a professional's tool, plain and simple.
Okay, so we've looked at 3 really different ways to manage risk, right? One for steady, stable growth, one for passing a very specific test, and one for just explosive compounding. On the surface, they seem like they're from different planets, but there is one golden rule, one single law that connects all of them. Did you spot it?
This is it. This is the whole secret to staying in the game long term. It doesn't matter if you're a brand new trader, a prop firm hopeful, or a seasoned pro trying to go exponential. The moment you start losing money, the moment you're in a drawdown, you protect yourself, you pull back, you reduce your risk. That one single act of discipline is what keeps a small losing streak from spiraling into a catastrophic, account-ending event.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Look, having a great strategy that finds good trades is awesome. It's the first step, but it's really only half the battle. The real question you have to ask yourself is, do you have the discipline, the mental toughness to manage your risk correctly through the good times and, more importantly, through the bad times? Because that's what makes all the difference.